So as I was saying, today we have John Blackburn. John and I met at the sailing club where we sail. John sails a big boat. I sail a small boat, but we're still friends. And John was very kind to agree to give a talk about, yes, you can laugh, mine for you, Nura. John was very kind to give a talk about management consulting. I'm sure some of you have heard about this word before, and John is going to explain to us the secrets, because he's been doing this for a long time. John is partner at the PwC office here in Dubai. You might ask him, what does partner mean? It's a very high position. And I will stop talking. I will let John go on. You can ask John any question you have. Yeah, John, are you ready?
Yeah, I am. Sorry, it's a new video conferencing platform, and my kit isn't working very well. So I just want to check everyone can hear me. I can't see anyone else. I've got my video on, but I don't know if anyone else has. But let's see.
We don't usually put the video here. The students to reduce bandwidth, basically. Otherwise.
Yeah, no worries. All right, cool.
Connection lags. But we hear you.
Dina. That's very kind of you to say. So
can you see the chat, John? Can you see the chat?
I can see the chat. Yeah, I can see the chat. Yeah.
Perfect.
I can see the poll and I can see the chats.
To share a screen, you can go to share content, top bottom, right?
Yeah.
Bottom
okay.
Right. The arrow. There's an arrow next to the people.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah, I got it. Yeah. All right.
Okay. Then number 2, share a screen application.
Right. Okay. Hang on. Let me see if I can make this work. Window. Screen. Okay. All right. Hang on. I'm just working on this. Give me 1 second. Share files. All right. See. Okay. Right. All right. Okay. All right. So let me just quickly do this. So you tell me when you can see this. I got a new computer and I don't know how to work it. Hang on. I've been given
to VoiceOver. VoiceOver speaks descriptions of items.
I've been given an Apple computer, which is very impressive. Right.
Congratulations. Okay. Welcome to the club.
Yeah, it's just taking me a little bit of time to get used to it, but I'm going to get that. 1 second. Right, so here we go. All right, share. Here we go. Right. Can everyone see this? No. Oh my goodness. Sorry. Oh, sorry.
Yes, we can see it. Don't worry. Right. John, what you can do is take your 4 fingers and slide them through the trackpad to the left.
Slide 4 fingers and slide them to the left. Okay. Yeah. So you can see this. Yeah. Right. Okay. Right.
No, we cannot see anything yet. Hold on.
Hang on.
Now yes.
Right. You can see this, right?
We can see it.
All right. Let's see. Oh man.
We can see it very well.
I'm trying to turn off presenter view. 1 second. This is a lesson in how this is why, as a partner in a large management consulting firm, I normally have people that do this for me. This is very bad. All right. Okay. Look, I'm just going to do it this way, so you can see my slides, right? You guys can see my. All right. Okay, guys. Can everybody hear me now?
Yes, we can.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Good. So So look, Jose, thank you very much for inviting me. It's a real pleasure to be here talking to you all. What I wanted to do, I guess, is not maybe do so much of a presentation, but talk through some of the things that I do as a consultant, and then perhaps talk a bit about that, and then you can ask me questions, and I'm happy to answer any questions around what you're doing. Does that sound good? All right, perfect. All right, so let me give you a quick introduction, right? So My name is John Blackburn. As you said, I'm a partner at PwC. What does that mean? That means that I'm one of the senior consultants in our organization. I run the energy consulting team here in the Middle East. So I'm predominantly working in Saudi and the UAE and Qatar. But actually, that means that we cover kind of Egypt and the Levant as well. Who am I working with? Well, I'm working with a lot of different organizations, mostly government organizations. So in the UAE, I work with the likes of the Ministry of Energy, federal level, DEWA in Dubai, TAQA in Abu Dhabi, Department of Energy in Abu Dhabi, Sharjah Electricity and Water Authority, SEWA, Federal Electricity and Water Authority, FEWA, Dubai Supreme Council for Energy, things like this. So a lot of different organizations in the energy space, a little bit of ENOC, Emirat, ADNOC as well. So on the resources side, and then in Saudi, same sort of clients there as well. So the Saudi Electricity Company, Saudi National Water Company, and now I just started working in NEOM as well. So which is quite interesting, quite an exciting place to work. There's a lot going on there, which is quite good. In terms of where I came from, I think perhaps for you guys to understand how I got to where I am, and I don't have a lot of slides, as you can see. I started my career straight out of university. So I studied, I've got a master's degree in theoretical physics. Why, you say, should I go on and be a consultant? Well, I think the answer to that question is, consulting is one of those careers and vocations that you go into if you have a good critical mind, is how I would describe it. So, and good judgment. Those are the kind of the two prerequisites, I think, for what we do. So you have to think critically. You have to be skeptical, professionally skeptical. You have to be objective. You have to be, very diligent and very fact-based. And ultimately, you need to have good judgment because really what we're in the business is providing advice. And when you're providing advice to other people, actually what you really need them to feel is they need to trust your judgment. And so I think those are the kind of things. And I felt that degrees like mathematics or physics or engineering or computer science or history or anything, in fact any degree, doesn't matter what you do, any degree is I like this. We'll have a conversation. I forgot about this, Jose, but we'll talk about that in a bit. Any university course, any field of study is going to give you those skills of kind of critical challenge, judgment, evidence-based decision making, all of which are prerequisite for what we do. So I went to the University of Bristol in the United Kingdom. So very old university. It was founded in 1876, I think. So more than 100 years old. I studied there for 4 years, and then I joined a consulting company called Accenture, which some of you might know. It's one of the world's biggest professional services companies. I stayed there for 5 years, and I was in the resources practice, and then the customer relationship management practice there, where I did a lot of work around how customer experience is improved for consumers in the retail industry and in central government in the UK. So I worked with the Department of Works and Pensions, who are the welfare organisation for retirees in the UK. I did that for 5 years, and then I joined EY, Ernst & Young. There I was part of the customer practice. So again, just dealing with kind of sales, marketing, and service, those kind of three broad topics, predominantly in the energy space. And I was 5 years in London with Ernst & Young before I moved out to Dubai 8 years ago. Brought my family here, uprooted them, moved out to the Gulf, which I think was probably the best decision I had made on a personal and professional basis. And for the last 8 years, first with EY and now with PwC, I've been an energy consultant in the region, as I said, working with the biggest utilities and energy companies here on these agendas of basically kind of transformation. So, and when I say transformation, what I mean is working on, agendas, working on topics, working on projects where something has to change, right? And when I say something has to change, that might be because the regulator has said so, or because there's been a decree, or or just because fundamentally, the economics of the world mean that something needs to change, and you need to transform your business to remain relevant, profitable, competitive. And so that's what I've been doing. And so, a lot of my work has been focused on the National Transformation Program in Saudi Arabia. So there we're seeing perhaps the most remarkable transformation any of us are likely to see, professionally at least, in the next kind of 20 years. And then in the UAE, I've been fortunate to be part of the kind of some of the most challenging work that's been going on in the energy sector in terms of trying to help make the overall power and water sectors in the UAE more efficient, more capitally efficient. So reduce the amount of capex which is spent on, for example, new power stations, by creating what we called Project Synergy, which was about the integration of the power sector and the power systems, and more importantly, the economics of the power systems between Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Sharjah, and the Northern Emirates. And then in Dubai, I spent a lot of time working on the customer happiness agenda with DEWA, which was a lot of fun a few years ago. So that's me. That's me. I could have got on to my second slide here, which was about working with companies across the GCC. I'll pause 1 second and see, has anyone got any questions? Yeah, anyone want to ask anything? Or should I keep going?
Any questions, anybody? Now is a chance. What character do you think John is? Red, blue, yellow, or green?
Hello.
Hey.
Hello, Mr. John. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. Who's this?
This is Khalid from Dubai here. I'm talking to you.
Khalid.
It's my pleasure to talk to you. Yeah, dear, basically, I agree with you regarding Gulf consulting, because what I believe, because I used to work with a consultant. I believe the consultant, he is like a guy who is like a master of all time. Like he is almost know everything. Not in the knowledge. I mean like know everything, and he can consult very well to create an agenda. And yeah, since Gulf country companies are, they are still new in the market. They are not as Europe country. So I think doing consultant here is one of the greatest idea, since the experience which and the impact which your gentlemen have been work with in Europe, especially it definitely it will be working here, and it will be like great and so on. That's all what I want to add. But my question is the consultant, is he the guy who like need to know everything to do better consulting? This is my question.
Yeah, it's a really good question, Khaled. I think the answer is no, though, right? So you absolutely don't need to know to be a consultant. Anyone that it tries to do everything is not doing one thing well, in my view. we have this phrase in English, a jack of all trades and a master of none. And what do I mean by that? Well, you know, if you try and do everything, you can't be, you're not going to be credible. And one of the key things, and I'll talk a bit about this a bit further on, is about seeking this role of a trusted advisor. And the trusted advisor is trusted because they have they are credible in what they do. They've developed an intimacy and have demonstrated the right intent to their clients that allows them to form that trusted relationship. But you know, you don't, you know, I'll use, you know, perhaps a silly example, but you know, you don't want the same person to be advising you on which cows to select for your milking herd and the safety requirements of your nuclear reactor. Like, they're two completely different top skill sets. They require deep specialism, but you know, you might need to have advice on both, but you don't want to be getting that from the same person. And I think, you know, a good consultant knows what their specialism is. In my instance, it's about utility. It's about making changes in utilities, particularly in how they serve customers, and it's knowing when to bring someone else in. And the good thing about working for a big firm like PwC is that we're a very large organization, and therefore pretty much, you know, as long as it's not really technical from a kind of, I don't know, engineering or medical or otherwise perspective, you can find someone somewhere in the world that is an expert, and you can bring them to meet your clients to provide, you know, that perspective and advice that they're seeking. And I think that's, you know, that's kind of one of the key things about consulting. Was that helpful, Khaled? Brilliant. Okay. All right. I will move on then to my next slide. So I think this is really relevant to everyone, you know, on this, a lot of the people on this call, right? So you know, at PwC and across the region, you know, I guess the way I look at the world is that I get to steward my part of the business and for a short period of time, and it's great to be an expat here, and I call Dubai my home, and I hope it will be for a very long time. But at the end of the day, you know, a sustainable, diverse business in the future needs to be led by people who, you know, live, work, and come from the region, and for that reason, kind of nationalisation is a massive agenda for us, and for me personally. So, you know, I work a lot with young and very capable, you know, Saudis, Emiratis, Omanis, Qataris in my business, helping them to kind of become the next generation of senior consultants in our business who can ultimately go on to lead it. And, you know, I've said this a few times, but you know, the best person to kind of run an account for us at like ADNOC is someone that grew up in Abu Dhabi, right? So, you know, this is a big topic, and something which I think we should all be kind of really focused on. And it's not just in terms of like Emiratization or anything like that. It's actually about, you know, making sure that we have, you know, the right people for the right job with the right skills. And there's a wonderful amount of talent out there, both in the universities here and around the world, that we're recruiting. And so we're actively recruiting now from, you know, different universities to bring people into our organization. Thanks. So let's talk about why consultants. My next slide, I've got one where I've actually tried to, you know, I've tried to analyze a little bit about what I think are the right, when is the right time to hire a consultant. But I think, I think, can I ask you guys, let's start here. Why do you think organizations hire consultants? It's just an open question to the room. To avoid loss and risk. Yeah. Anyone else? Aisha or Budur, Dina, Fatima, Hanan, Miriam, Nora, Omar, anyone? Makes everyone's life easier. Well, maybe, hopefully. Yeah. Improve quality of work. Yeah. To manage and control. Yeah. Interestingly, to manage and control, we're not really allowed to do that, actually. Helping growth, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so all of those are really good answers, right? So let me go to my next slide. So this is by no means the only answer. It's just, it was my way of trying to show you this. So in my view, there is to decide if you need a consultant. I think there are some different criteria, and I think there's if you think about a kind of a chart with two axes. On the y-axis, we're going to look at the level of change, right? So how much change do I need to make? Is there a lot of new regulation? How complex is the task? How much uncertainty in their task? How much growth is required? I think someone said. How much effort's required? How much return am I looking to generate? There's a typo there. I'm sorry about that. So on the one hand, you've got to think about the scale and the magnitude of the task, right? And on the other hand, on the x-axis, I think you need to think about how much capability and capacity or desire there is in your organization to take on that task. And when you think about, a problem through those two dimensions, I think, in terms of what your action is, in terms of the sort of support you need, I think there are probably perhaps 4 simple outcomes. And I'll start in the bottom left-hand corner, right? So if it's a low amount of effort, low complexity, low importance, and your desire is low, or your capability is low, or even your capacity is low, you don't have enough time or people to do it. I think, to me, you should be really asking yourself the question of, is this something that I really need to do? Is this project or this initiative really valuable to me? Is it really needed? And if the answer is yes, it's probably pretty transactional and something you can go and get, outsourced. So I don't know, you might have, this might be like doing back office processing or something like this. It's not very exciting. It's necessary. It doesn't require a lot of effort. It's pretty simple. It's something which is really easy to give to someone else to do. I wouldn't call that consulting. I would just call that kind of business process outsourcing. Likewise, I think if you have something which is frankly pretty easy to do and you're good at it, you have the time to do it, and actually you want to do it, my view is do it yourself, right? So don't pay a lot of money for consultants, and let's be honest, consultants are really expensive for something which you can do just as fine yourself. So that would be. Now we come into the second kind of category, which is where the level of change that you're trying to achieve, or the complexity or the effort is high. This is, I think, where we begin to see consultants playing more and more and more. So where your capability, or capacity is low, but the level of change or what you need to achieve is quite complex, there's a lot of work to be done. It's very confusing. There's lots of different work streams, lots of different dependencies. You probably need some help. And, for me, and again, I'll talk about what some of the good behaviors are and the bad behaviors are, perhaps. But, the reason that you need help is because you need someone that can bring, as someone else said, independent perspective. They can bring external specialism that you don't have in your organization. Sometimes they can just bring capacity, right? So they just bring arms and legs to do more work because you just can't get enough done. And that's one type of consulting. And this is when you're probably going to be looking at a very price competitive thing. So as a buyer of consultants, you want to be thinking about how you can get best value for your money here, because it might be that what is needed perhaps isn't so complicated. There's lots of choice out there, and you can go and get stuff. Now, when we go to the most complex programs where the risk is the highest, be that from personal credibility, from a financial, from a reputational. When risk is high and your desire to do that project is high, this is when I think you need to look for someone that you can trust. And I think this is where consultants really, really come into their own, because a consultant is incentivized to do a good job for their client. Because when you do a good job for your client, we get repeat work, we get the sort of the satisfaction and the kudos of doing a good job, and more importantly, we get paid. And for me, you know, ultimately, where we have this meeting of, you know, a client that is extremely capable, has, you know, the capacity to work on the project with you, and has the desire to do a great job, but is facing something where it's extremely complex or uncertain. You know, there's a huge potential, you know, regulation, huge risk. Then they want someone that they can trust to get the job done, and that's when, you know, I think a consultant is absolutely critical. So, Dina, you've asked, can consultants help to reduce the risk? Well, I think the answer to that question is maybe, right? So, I think it should be yes. So, nothing is ever risk-free. But if you bring in the right consultant, and I think that's really, really important, if you bring in the right consultant who is a specialist in what they do, who is, you know, has the right contract and is getting paid the right amount of money to do a good job, then yes, I think it does help to manage the risk. But, you know, you can never, it's never a 100% thing. There's always going to be risk there. So you know, it's an interesting one. But you know, one thing we do really well is we try. Yeah, nothing's 100%, right? Death and taxes, as they say, the only things that are guaranteed. Yeah. So you know, I think what we need to do is, you know, think about then why and how we use consultants. So I'll just pause there. I don't know if Jose's still on the call. I think maybe he dropped off. But the so that's kind of that. So is there any questions there other than has anyone got anything they'd like to, any questions they'd like to ask? Nope. All right. Let's move on. Okay. As I said, this is a short presentation. All right. So what does a good project look like? I'll talk a little bit about this, and then at the end I'll talk a bit about the colors and the social styles. So for me, a good project is one which is well executed. And what do I mean by that? So what I mean is that when you set out to do a project, you've really thought through. You've kind of started with that. I think Simon Sinek says, you know, the start with why, right? So well, consulting companies are specialists in one field or many. Hold on to that thought. I'll come back to that. But the answer is generally it depends on which consulting firm you talk to. Some like the ones I work for have many skills. You know, we have consultants, we have accountants, we have people that do transactions and deals. You know, like mergers and acquisitions, just, you know, restructuring. And then there are specialist organizations out there that might just do supply chain transformation, or they might just do investor relations or something like that. So it depends. There's the big firms and, you know, what people sometimes call boutique consultants, who tend to be more specialized in one topic. If I go back to my good, so yeah, I think Jose was saying, you know, you kind of done the Simon Sinek golden circle, start with why, right? So for me, a good project has answered that question, which is, you know, what I mean by that is there is a good business case for doing the project, and by that I mean that the capital deployed or the OPEX spend is going to deliver a return for the business that is better than you would get either by leaving that money in the bank or by not spending it. So number one, there has to be a solid business case. Number two, you then have to get the requirements right. And what do I mean by that? It's like, you know, you need to be really clear in what the outcome is that you're trying to achieve, and how you go to do it. And sometimes, you know, that means spending time with multiple organizations and multiple consultants to work out the best way of doing things. You know, no one has got a monopoly on good ideas, right? So we all have to learn from each other. So I think you have to get the requirements right, and then I think the third thing is you have to get the right partner for the job. There's absolutely no point asking me to come in and do something to do with accounting. I'm not an accountant. You know, I won't do a very good job at it. You need to go and get a specialist, you know, accounting advisor in to do that. If you get those things right and you have a realistic budget and timeline, then you know the chances are that you will get a good outcome as a project manager or as a business owner and as a consultant. However, I think it's pretty true that everyone that's worked in consulting has worked on what we sometimes refer to as a death march project, one which from the beginning is doomed to failure. And there's what the biggest challenge faced in this field. Well, let's talk about that now. So for me, the you know why projects go wrong is the opposite of why they go right. So they go wrong because there's no real reason to do the project. Someone had a good idea, but they never really thought it through. There's no sponsorship, so the leadership aren't really. There's not enough budget or no budget. You know, the requirements, what you're actually going to do is unclear. You start without a plan. You don't have the right support. It's not delivered in the right way, and ultimately, it just doesn't really achieve anything. And I think all of those things combine for projects, which you know ultimately become death marches. And typically, what that also means is that you run out of budget when you're doing these projects, and you know, and that means that you know no one's happy. So the client isn't happy, the consultant's boss isn't happy, nobody's happy, and it just goes from there. To answer the question around what are the biggest challenges in this job? You know, there are professional and professional and perhaps challenges. I think the first thing is you know, we are client-serving professionals, which means that we're always at the beck and call of our clients, which can be extremely stressful and very draining. You know, not because we don't like our clients or we don't get on with them, but you know, you have to be responsive, and that takes a lot of energy and can be quite stressful. I think so. There can be quite a bit of stress. I think perhaps one of the biggest ones is that in order for a consultant to be relevant, they have to stay on top of the latest trends. But the needs of businesses are continuously changing, which means the needs of consulting businesses are continually changing, which means that we have to therefore keep reinventing ourselves and upskilling and investing and growing to be able to meet the needs of our clients. So right now we're hugely investing in kind of AI type data science skills, where we're upskilling our entire workforce around different digital tools. We're having to get real specialists in things like regulation, because there's a lot of regulatory change and things like this going on across the region. And I think again, that's a real challenge for the leadership. And then there's the day-to-day challenges. Some of the work that we do is extremely technically complicated. It can be quite hard. Data is a huge issue for us always. We also get a lot of pushback. Not everyone likes working with consultants or being consulted, so it can be quite difficult. There's quite a lot of things, but the flip side to that is it can be extremely rewarding. So we work very hard, but the outcome is that if you do a good project, you can build great relationships with your clients. You could do something which is truly innovative and really exciting, and that's always gives people a lot of energy. And so I think and I think that the number one thing about this is no 2 days are ever the same in consulting. I've been doing it for nearly 20 years now, and I have to say I've never done the same thing twice, and that keeps it interesting, stimulating, and why I keep coming back to it. And I can't really imagine myself doing anything else. So I'm just coming to the end, I guess. I mean, that was a sort of a brief overview of consulting. Maybe not the best one you'll ever get, but hopefully it's been a little bit informative for you. I wanted to just kind of ask whether you have any questions, or if there's anyone would like to ask any questions at all. Let's ask a question. What color social style do you think I am? Is that red? Okay, one vote for red. Anyone else? Why do you think that, Khalid? And blue. Okay, so we're getting green. Yeah, red and blue.
Yeah, look, sometimes you need when you need a consultant, you don't need you need a new idea and you need a non-linear without يعني without respect for the hierarchical. So I choose the red because he need to came with the new idea out of the box. This is what I'm thinking. And blue because he after you answers my questions, I feel like blue because he need to be like follow his experience and follow his whatever he know, whatever the knowledge that he earned to be implemented. So he need to be like, you know, or object oriented and do everything in the right place.
Sure, okay. Anyone else? Anyone else got any other thoughts? Youssef or Sahel, Reem. What is a consultant's mindset? I think you have to be, I think I said this before, you know, you have to be very open-minded to new ideas, new ways of thinking, different ways of doing things. But you have to have a critical mindset as well, because you have to be professionally skeptical is the way that we talk about it, which is to say that a bit like a detective, if someone tells you something, you don't take it as true until you've verified it. And you try and use, you know, frameworks to elicit kind of, you know, evidence and facts, and from that you draw your conclusions to make your recommendations. That's a very you know, there's a very logical, critical way of doing it. So I think that an open, logical, professionally skeptical mindset perhaps might be how I might describe it. I'll just go back to the colors topic, right? So it's a really interesting thing, and I was saying to Jose when we were just chatting about preparing for the session that, you know, one of the things that I always want to understand when I'm meeting a client for the first time is where are they on that color spectrum, right? You know, and the reason for that is because believe it or not, when I get tested on these topics, I always come out as yellow, like very, very expressive in my style. Got big arm movements, you know, loud voice, lots of pitch variation. I actually I'm quite good. I really enjoy kind of creating ideas in a very kind of group environment. I like telling stories, right? But when I come to a client, you know, imagine I come up against a blue analytic client. You know, our styles are going to clash. And so the key thing about being a consultant is understanding where you are and where your client is, and then flexing your style to better meet that with your client. So if it's someone who's an analytic, who's blue, I'm going to turn up to a meeting well prepared with a lot of evidence, because that person wants to know that I've done my homework and be right. If I go to see someone who's red, who's a driver, I'm going to turn up with just, here is my recommendation. Let me tell you what I'm going to tell you, right? This is what I'm going to tell you. If it's someone that's expressive, I'm going to turn up with, you know, pictures, stories. We're just going to have a conversation and it's just going to flow. And if it's someone who's amiable and green, you know, what I'm trying to do is provide them with reassurance. So I'm kind of trying to demonstrate why ideas, I'm personally credible, and then the ideas that we're doing are credible. And so I might be talking about, for example, an investment case for AI in government, but depending on what the style is of the different people that I'm talking to, I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to approach that conversation a different way. And what that means is, and someone said it, is actually we've all got bits of each color in our own behavior and our style. We have, you know, and the good consultants in the professional sense, not always at home. You can't do this always because it's exhausting. But when they're at work, they tend to be much more centered and much more aware of where they are. And so you're a bit of everything. But actually, I'm yellow when I need to be, red when I need to be, blue when I need to be, and green when I need to be. But when I'm at home, I'm yellow. So there was a question there. Sorry, I missed it. Was it Nura? Do you reckon consultancy is career path? Fine. Okay. Thanks, Omar. So do I recommend consultancy as a career path? Yeah, I think I do. I mean, I think it's going to change though. Actually, I think over the next few years, I think we'll see a change in what consultancy means. I think it's much more it's going to get much more technical, and so you need deep skills. So if you want to become a cybersecurity consultant, for example, I think you need to build deep skills in cybersecurity, either through study or through experience. And then but you've got to want to be able to kind of problem solve and do projects and be in professional services. If you don't like what issues do you face when dealing with clients? Well, everyone wants everything now, or they don't see when they're paying lots of money why we can't work over the weekend to get something done so it can be ready to go on Sunday morning. Yes, exactly. So you need to build a proper foundation. Yeah, and we do train people, but particularly technical things, I think there'll be more education required before you join the industry. So yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting career path. It's not for everyone. There is a personal toll that comes with it, and you need to weigh that up. But the rewards are there for those that persist, and it's very stimulating intellectually. It can be very exciting. It can be very stressful. It can be very varied, and I think that's a really important point. So Khaled said, well, which point of time do we need a consultant, and which point of time do we need to look for another? I think, as I said before, Khaled, I mean, I think you need a consultant when you perhaps need, a trusted advisor, you need objectivity, you need, capacity, you want to help manage risk, or maybe you don't think you can get something done, or you don't think that you want an independent viewpoint. Independence is really key to us. That's a real kind of important part of being a consultant, is trying to remain distant from what you're doing and go from there. So yeah. Is any other questions from anyone? What's the biggest significant change or impact you've made to an organization as a consultant? Wow, that's a good question. What would I say is, I mean, sometimes they're not always positive, right? So probably the biggest impact I've had is there are two that were quite meaningful. I was working for an organization in Saudi Arabia, and through some human optimization, by basically helping people perform better at their job, we were able to actually help the company save about 800 million dirhams in about 6 months. So I think that was probably the most significant impact that I've delivered. I mean, another time I was working for an organization. We helped them define their corporate strategy in terms of how they would grow. That was 8 years ago. 8 years on, they have 8 years on. That strategy was executed, and the business is now several times bigger than it was before. So pretty satisfying as well. So yeah, I mean, done lots of things. Delivered completely new SAP systems. We've done restructured the Omani water sector. So we took the thing. So okay, so Dina, why did you choose to pursue a career in consulting, and have these reasons changed over time? It's a great question. So I went into consulting because I really didn't know what to do when I was leaving university, and all the things that attracted me to it at the time were, it was interesting, fast-paced, rewarding, demanding. I got to work with impressive clients, and I think those reasons for being in consulting haven't really changed. I think what has changed is how, you know, the relationship that we have with our clients. Clients have become a lot more used to working with consultants, a lot more critical and savvy about getting the most out of them. So, you know, the job has got harder and more demanding over time, I think. And there is a bit now, which is I've been doing this for nearly 20 years and I'm not sure I know how to do anything else. So perhaps I'm just ticking along because it's what I've always done. But it's a great question. And I think, you know, every year in my team, people re-evaluate what's important to them and they conclude that they want to go off and do other things. So, you know, we've had guys go into government, some people go start their own business. You know, it's a great foundation to go and do lots of other things, but there are also many other good foundations out there as well. So, you know, what's one thing you wish somebody would have told you before going to consulting? Business travel is not glamorous at all. To sign up for every frequent flyer program and a holiday, a hotel loyalty scheme immediately. All sorts of stuff. I think the other thing that someone would have, if told me how many hours I was going to work, I probably just wouldn't have believed them. Is consulting helping in the managerial level to change opinions and ideas or just improve? Well, I think that's a really interesting point. I mean, you know, ideas, you're not seeking to change people's opinions or ideas. So, I mean, sometimes, yes. You know, we talk about change management. Maybe you've talked about this in courses that you've done. Change management is about getting people to buy into the objectives of what you're trying to achieve, and that absolutely can involve changing management's opinions and ideas. And we do that through, you know, by demonstrating the value in what the change is. So, you know, if someone doesn't believe that doing something in a different way is valuable, then they're unlikely to change. But if you can demonstrate to them why, I don't know, why by implementing a new supply chain system can, you know, reduce the time it takes to get inventory into a factory for manufacturing so that you don't have as much downtime, you can begin to convince kind of operational managers that maybe it's a good idea, and they'll then begin to support and do it. And I think that whole point around that change journey and how you get people to go on it is a really big part of consulting, and why perhaps the biggest challenge of my job is not writing reports or doing analysis, but it's about getting people who often are senior, important, and have strong opinions aligned with the objectives of the program and the sponsors of the program. And if that person happens to be the CEO or the minister, then, you know, that can be a really tough job and can take a long time and can not always be that comfortable. But, you know, I've presented to you know, ministers, CEOs, all sorts of stuff, and, you know, generally speaking, as long as you're presenting something which is kind of on strategy, relevant, important, and timely, then you'll get a good response. How are we doing for time, Jose? How are we doing?
Yeah, we're doing great. Yeah, we're great. Any more questions for Jonathan? Well, Jonathan, it was a pleasure having you.
My pleasure.
Last comment, with what career advice would you give to my students?
What, sorry?
What a career advice. If you had to give one career advice, what would it be?
Yeah, choose something that you really enjoy, that you're really happy to spend a lot of time doing. You know, I think, you know, if you can find something that you're passionate about and engaged in, that makes work so much more enjoyable, and it'll make you so much more successful. You know, I really like what I do. It's not always fun, but, like, you know, I like it. So yeah, you know, find something that you're engaged with and do that. I think don't just do something for the sake of it, would be my view.
Thank you, Jonathan. This was amazing. It was a pleasure having you today here, and my
Anytime.
students, I'm sure they're also very thankful for you.
I want to thank you
Give
all
a big
for.
clap to Jonathan on the chat.
Thank you very much,
Big clap on the chat.
and thank you all for your great questions. There's been some really
You're
interesting
amazing.
and challenging questions.
Challenging questions. Yes, yes. Good job. The most challenging question has a bonus point. Wonderful, Jonathan. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you in the sailing club
Thanks, guys.
soon.
Take it. Best of luck with your studies and with
you may
with
stay
your
for
work.
the. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you very much, guys.
Ciao, ciao.
Now I have to learn work out how to leave.
All right. Well. You just
All
scan.
right.
There's an X at the top right of the window.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks very much, guys. See you soon, Jose. All right. Take care.
No.
Bye.
Bye. All right. So this is the last lecture, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed the course as much as I did. And yeah. So if you have any questions before the final exam, any comments? Yes, please do ask now. Now is the time to ask. Yes, you can open the microphone. Yes, the structure will be like the midterm. Exactly like the midterm. Very similar, I would say. So yeah, it will be divided in 4 parts, lockdown browser, no backtracking. Sounds good? I will send some mock-up questions so you can practice. If you want an A, I suggest you study all the material. That's a very good idea. Yes, any other questions? Okay, so I will send a mock-up exam so you can practice, and I'll see you next week, same time for the final exam. Lockdown browser, okay? Great, excellent. Essay questions? No, no essay questions. Awesome, okay. Have a great week, and well done, everybody. This was an amazing course. See you soon. See you next week on your final. Ciao, ciao.
Sir?